What if the most dangerous person in a household full of schemers is the one person who refuses to treat you like a transaction? Because after 2 episodes of The Road to Splendor, that's the question I can't stop thinking about. We have a salt smuggler who lies for a living, a family willing to trade marriage for political power, a woman who has sacrificed years of her life for a family that barely values her, and a young woman who is slowly realizing that the only thing separating her from becoming someone else's bargaining chip is her ability to outsmart them. And then there's the salt. Because I don't think the salt is just a plot device. I think the salt may be telling us what this entire drama is about: value. Who has it? Who gets to decide it? And what happens when people start putting a price on human beings? Welcome to TeaHouse Dives. This is my first pour of The Road to Splendor. We're only 2 episodes in, so this isn't a final review. Instead, I want to answer 3 questions. What kind of drama is this becoming? And what is hiding underneath all that beautiful surface? And most importantly, is this actually a drama for you? Episode 1 gave us the fake snow. The Fu family literally used salt to create a beautiful winter scene for their guests. And the irony was impossible to miss. Salt is scarce. Salt is expensive. People need it. And the Fu family is using it to make their courtyard look prosperous. So right away, the drama gives us a family desperately trying to preserve an image. Their social standing is declining, and yet they're still performing wealth, refinement, and importance. But episode 2 takes that idea even further, because now we're watching women who are being asked to preserve family honor. Marriage is being used to preserve status. A widow's suffering can be turned into a memorial arch. A daughter becomes part of a dowry calculation. A son is treated as an investment in the imperial examinations. Even friendships are beginning to look like negotiations. Everyone is trying to preserve something: a reputation, a family, a marriage prospect, a political position, a future, and almost everything has a price. This is where Tingyun's situation becomes much darker. In episode 1, her family wanted to find her a powerful husband. But in this episode, we see exactly how many people want to control that decision. The widow wants her to marry her brother. The Fu elders want the marriage that gives them the greatest political advantage. Madame Yu wants her for her son once she decides that match benefits the Yu family. And what about her? She's standing in the middle of all of this trying to figure out how to survive it. Nobody's really asking her what she wants. They're asking, what can her marriage accomplish? And that's why I found Zhao Ling's reaction so interesting, because Sen basically tells them, why not marry her? Her dowry could provide capital for your salt business. Strategically, it makes perfect sense. And Zhao Ling rejects the idea, not because he doesn't need money, not because he suddenly became a saint, but because he recognizes exactly what that marriage would be: a transaction. And he refuses to ruin an innocent woman's life simply because her family can make the deal profitable. That is a fascinating moral line for a man who's literally a salt smuggler. This is one of the biggest things episode 2 does for Zhao Ling. He's a criminal. He's a liar. He manipulates the authorities. He steals. He runs an illegal salt operation, and yet he has rules. He doesn't want to destroy an innocent woman's reputation. He has a survival philosophy. If words will work, don't use your fists. If fists will work, don't spend money. And if money will work, don't risk your life. It's pragmatic. Sometimes it sounds a bit ruthless, but it's still a code. And that creates one of the great ironies of the drama so far. The respectable people keep talking about morality while treating human beings like assets. Meanwhile, the male lead keeps lying, but he draws a line around certain things he refuses to do. Now, does that make him a good man? I'm not ready to say that, and I actually hope the drama doesn't make it that simple. Because what makes him interesting isn't that he's secretly perfect. I love that his morality seems to exist alongside his criminal side. He can do questionable things and he still has boundaries. And this is where I think the main leads become fascinating counterparts. She figures him out. She doesn't magically know. She reasons her way there. Ground snow is extremely rare. Only certain people should have access to it. Zhao Ling's story doesn't add up, so she sets a trap. And when that trap fails, she adapts. She doesn't sit around waiting for him to come back. She puts out a wanted notice. And here's the clever part that she does. She changes the wording. Instead of saying he attempted to swindle the family, she says he successfully swindled them. Why? Because she understands the incentives. People might not care about helping the Fu family recover money, but they will care about a bounty. She's using the system against itself, and suddenly they don't seem as different as they first appear. Neither of them wins by force. They read people. They manipulate circumstances. They understand incentives. They survive by thinking 3 steps ahead. The difference is that Zhao Ling has learned to operate outside the law. Meanwhile, she has learned to operate inside a household that gives her almost no formal power, and this could become one of the most interesting dynamics in the entire drama. There's something really interesting about what happens next. Zhao Ling is furious about the accusation. He hasn't taken the money, so his response is basically, fine, now I'm really gonna take it. And suddenly the moral line gets blurry again, because this is the same man who refused to marry her for her dowry. He won't take the daughter, but he'll take the money. And I love that distinction because the drama seems to be asking, is money dirty because of what it is or because how people use it? Remember what he said in episode 1? If the Fu family can afford to keep their salt so spotless, perhaps the dirty thing isn't the salt, maybe it's the money. And now he's deliberately going after that money. So I'm watching very closely to see what the drama does with this, because Zhao Ling may have a code, but that doesn't mean his hands are clean. And I think that's much more interesting than giving us a straightforward bad boy with a heart of gold. This episode completely changes how I see the widow. In the first episode, she looked like a jealous woman determined to destroy the female lead. And she's absolutely responsible for the harm she's trying to cause. But now we understand where some of that bitterness comes from. She was a young widow. She was told her suffering will bring honor to the family. She was given promises. Her younger brother was brought into the household. She was told he would succeed. She was told her sacrifices would eventually mean something. But then years passed. Her brother didn't become the successful scholar everyone promised. And she realized something devastating. The family had never actually planned to free her. Her suffering had become useful. Her widowhood gave the family honor. Her brother gave her something to cling to, and her hope kept her obedient. That's why her obsession with the female lead becomes so tragic. She isn't simply looking at her as a rival. She's looking at a younger woman who still has choices. The female lead still has beauty, youth, marriage prospect, possibilities. Meanwhile, the widow sacrificed all of that. And now she's being told that her sacrifice still isn't enough. That doesn't excuse what she does, but it makes her tragic. She's someone who was damaged by the system and then turned that around and used the same system against another woman. And then we get one of the darkest images in the episode. She promises to suffer enough to earn another chastity memorial arch for the family. Let's think about that. Her suffering is literally being transformed into a monument. Her sacrifice becomes family prestige, and the family can point to that stone structure and say, look how honorable we are. But the woman who actually lived through that suffering, she's barely valued. That's why I don't see the memorial arch as a symbol of virtue. It becomes a symbol of how female suffering can be turned into social currency. And when the family chooses political advantage over her wishes, the irony becomes even crueler. The woman who sacrificed her life for the family's honor is still disposable. And then we have the lady from the Fan family. I think her storyline may be one of the most emotionally important parts of this episode. Because she isn't simply jealous of the female lead, she's afraid. She knows that her family has less status. She knows that marrying into the Fu family could potentially change her life. So when she gives her the daffodils, hoping it might help create a connection with her brother, she's surprised that her friend doesn't give it to him. But the female lead's reason is actually protective. She knows how dangerous her household can be. But Lady Fan doesn't know that. She interprets the silence as rejection, as proof that her friend thinks she's beneath her. And then comes a devastating silver versus gold imagery. Lady Fan sees silver tarnish. Then she sees the female lead's gold remain bright, and she concludes, silver is simply worth less than gold. That's heartbreaking because she isn't just talking about jewelry anymore. She's talking about herself. And then the drama gives us the flowers. This is where the symbolism gets really interesting. Madame Yu tells Lady Fan that the narcissist needs clean water. It doesn't like prolonged sunlight. Its roots will rot if the water isn't kept pure. And then she tells her, essentially, to bloom gracefully without seeking praise. Beautiful words, but underneath them, she is rejecting her. She's telling Miss Fan, you're delicate, you're beautiful, but you're not suited to this family. And then she returns the flower. Lady Fan wants to rise socially. She wants respect. She wants to marry into a better family. But the very people who have the power to elevate her are also telling her that she doesn't belong. That's why I think she's one of the most dangerous characters to watch going forward. Not because she's evil, but because she's beginning to believe that her only path to worth is status. And when someone starts believing that their value depends on status, desperation isn't far behind. And then we have the magnolia. Madame Yu tells the female lead that the magnolia itself is splendid, but its original pot is a burden. That feels almost like a direct description of the female lead. She's intelligent, she's composed, she's capable, but she's trapped inside the Fu family. The flower is beautiful. The pot is the problem. And Madame Yu is basically telling her, you may be capable of blooming, but your circumstances are holding you back. And that's an interesting contrast with Miss Fan. Miss Fan is trying to find a better pot. The female lead is trying to escape hers. And the widow, she has been trapped in hers for years. 3 women, 3 different responses to the same system. And this is probably the most important question if you're wondering whether you should start watching. If you're looking for a light historical romance where the leads fall in love and everything else is basically background decoration, I'm not sure this is the drama. There is romance here, but after 2 episodes, the romance isn't the only reason to watch. If you enjoy smart female leads, you'll probably enjoy her story. If you enjoy morally gray male leads, his story gives you something to chew on. And if you like secret identities and mystery, there's already plenty to unpack. And if you enjoy family politics and marriage negotiations, this drama is practically serving them by the pot. And if you like social class conflict, Fan's storyline is worth watching. And if you love dramas where a flower, a hairpin, a pile of salt, or a memorial arch can tell you something about the characters, then this drama may be worth putting on your watch list. But if you need a fast-moving romance with obvious heroes and villains, you might find this a bit frustrating. Because these characters are constantly making calculations. Sometimes they're protecting themselves, sometimes they're manipulating someone else, and sometimes they're doing both at the same time. So if you're the kind of viewer who enjoys pausing an episode and asking, why did that character just do that? I think there's a lot here for you. So after 2 episodes, I'm definitely not ready to predict where the romance is going, but I am invested. And the question that I'm asking into episode 3 is, what happens when preserving yourself means destroying someone else? And perhaps more importantly, can the main leads build something genuine in a world where almost every relationship comes with a price tag? I definitely cannot wait for episode 3 because underneath all the beautiful snow, I think this family is already starting to melt. And I want to see what happens when the surface finally cracks. If you're watching along with me, tell me in the comments. Until next time, keep your tea warm, and keep diving beneath the surface.